Archaeology. It's a BYU major that lets students freely get their hands dirty. BYU Weekly's Jordan Harker tagged along on a recent dig to see what kinds of things aspiring archaeologists find right in BYU's own backyard.
To the untrained eye, this may look like any other stretch of rolling hills, but it is actually the perfect excavation site for archaeology Brigham Young University students. They're spending several weeks looking for answers about an ancient Native American culture known as the Fremont.
The Fremont complex is, it's just kind of a big question mark. We don't know quite exactly anything about Fremont. Were they ancestors of the Anasazi, the ancestral Puebloan people, or were they indigenous people to this area? We haven't quite figured that out. What did they subside on? What did they eat day to day? What did they live in? What kind of houses? What kind of structures? What did they use? What did they do for fun? Just simple questions we want to learn about these people.
With help from several graduate students and their advisor, Dr. Joel Janetsky, students set on an archaeological field study comprising two major dig sites in the Utah Valley, Wolf Village, south of Goshen, and Seaman's Mound on the outskirts of Provo.
Well, Indiana Jones said it best when he said, archaeologists don't follow maps to buried treasure, and X never, ever marks the spot.
X may not have marked the spot on this piece of land at Wolf Village, but the landowner did find artifacts and allowed the team of BYU students to begin the excavation process. Deciding where to excavate begins with surveying the site. Forming a line, students move across an area in swaths and observe the ground. When an artifact is encountered, it is marked with a flag. An area with several markers in close proximity to each other proves to be the best place to excavate. The team lays out a grid of 1 meter squares to precisely chart descriptions and measurements made during the excavation process.
What I do specifically is I work with a group of 4 undergraduate students, and basically I teach them the skills they need to know to dig.
80.5.
27.
I kind of help them know where to dig, how deep to dig, recognize things as they're digging, help them with their notes, because we have to take notes on everything.
1 meter 6.5.
You have to be a little bit OCD to be an archaeologist because everything's kind of nitpicking detailed.
You have to be careful that what you do here can be replicated, or at least the places where you dug can be replicated should anyone want to come back here in the future. Students are using state-of-the-art total stations. All measurements are done with a laser instrument, just called a total station. Not all universities have the kind of support that we've been able to get at BYU. All these techniques allow us to totally control what's coming out of the ground, so then we can tell the story more accurately.
122.07 meters.
The students uncover projectile points, or arrowheads, as well as food remains such as burnt maize and bones from fish and other animals. The signs of ancient dwellings appear, showing where adobe walls once stood, next to ancient floors. Indentations in the ground may indicate where wooden posts once supported a long collapsed structure.
12 across 28 down.
I look at a piece of ceramic or a piece of pottery and I know that somebody actually used this at one time. They left just basically their garbage behind, and that's how we have to study about them. And so we read that, or we look at that, and it says, okay, what does it say about these people?
It might help us understand how people can deal with changes today. Although I personally think that the history of the native peoples of this land is important intrinsically, just to know what their history was, because it's not written. The only way we can explore that history is through oral tradition, which tends to fade as you get further and further back in time, or through archaeology.
Each student looks to their own past for personal reasons, why they chose to study archaeology.
I don't know if I should say this. The reason I initially chose archaeology as a major is because I don't like to shower. And I thought, you can stand out here in the dirt and you're camping and it's great and I love it. But that's not the reason I stayed in archaeology, obviously.
Okay.
I just love learning about the past and being outside.
I remember as a kid, many years ago, my uncle took me to this site in southern Utah that had lots of petroglyphs. I've always liked to go out and go hiking, find ruins, take pictures of them, and just try to understand who these people were.
I read the Chris Heimerdinger Traditions Among the Nephite books, and that got me interested in archaeology. And so every year for Christmas I'd ask for archaeology books.
Unearthing the remains of an ancient civilization is dirty work. Students subject themselves to heat, cold, insects, long hours, and a tedious pace. Despite discomfort and occasional exhaustion endured over several weeks, BYU archaeology students say their time on the dig has been well spent. Their work continues off the dig site as well. Next comes a detailed study of the recovered artifacts. It's another step in attempting to recreate the culture of a now forgotten people. Jordan Harker, BYU Weekly.
Go for it.